Hi everyone, and welcome to Learning Space. This week we are talking with Tavi Greiner. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Greiner.
Sorry, Tavi Greiner. Make sure I got the first name and I skipped the last. We're talking with Tavi Greiner about some informal astronomy education. I am one of your hosts today, Nicole Gugliucci. I work with CosmoQuest. I am a postdoc, and I have with me Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
So Georgia Bracey also works for CosmoQuest. You are our formal education lead. And we're going to go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, I totally worked on getting a hands-on demo together today because I've been in meetings all day. I'm sure some of you know what that's like.
Yes.
But I do have some fancy Venus Transit 2012 vintage solar glasses. So I could just demonstrate that for you. I can't see a darn thing. So
that's sometimes nice.
Yes.
Oh, we kind of like that.
Nap with these on.
Gives you a warm, cozy feeling.
Yeah. So these are from NASA, Sun Earth Day, NASA.gov. Just a reminder, if you're ever going to do solar observing, as I've blogged about this before, please use proper equipment and make sure you've got something that's, all properly certified. So that's my cop-out hands-on demo of the week, since I was in
Learning Space tip of the week.
Yeah, Learning Space
Science tip of the week. There you go.
I'd like to remind you guys, if you want to comment or ask questions along the way, we are monitoring comments on YouTube, so if you're watching there, on the Google Plus event page, on anywhere else on Google Plus where this happens to be posted. I'm pretty sure we are tracking those. And if you are using Twitter, use the hashtag #LearningSpace, and that will reach us as well. So feel free to ask questions, and we will try and get to all of them during the broadcast. So Tavi, hi. Welcome to Learning Space.
Hi there.
Welcome you and your friend in the background.
Can you see him?
Yeah. The Zynga poster. I love it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with astronomy outreach, all the amazing, awesome stuff you've done.
I've done a lot of fun stuff. I started out with SLU.com, which is a remote observatory located in the Canary Islands, and they also have equipment in Australia now. And with that, we did nightly radio shows to accompany the real-time imaging. That was a lot of fun. As we observed each object, we would talk about it, explain the science behind it, and we also had news programs and a lot of interaction with the people who were there. And I also was very involved for quite a while with astronomy.fm, which is the world's only 24-hour astronomy internet radio station. They have a lot of original programs that they play, and they also replay some of the CosmoQuest shows. I think the weekly space hangouts do those. A lot of the more popular shows that are on. And I also do a lot of outreach around here locally with the local planetarium. And we have astronomy productions, Rob Cowan and I, with askyfullofstars.com. We do a lot of interviews with people in the space science industry. So that's pretty much it.
Tavi, how did you get started? Because I know, and I think you're going to probably talk a little bit more about that later, but for your own personal story, did you have a science background? What got you interested, I guess, in astronomy, and then how did you decide to take it further and do outreach, share it with everybody else?
Yeah, you know what? How I first got started is just simply being curious about looking up and wondering what was up there. And my husband bought me a used telescope, and I got out there and just started messing around and accidentally found Saturn.
Wow.
Wasn't even looking for it, and that blew my mind. I mean, that was really an ethereal moment for me. And so then, when I moved down here, I didn't know anyone, didn't have much to do, so I thought I'd really get involved in astronomy. And I have to say it was SLU.com, the remote observatory, that really hooked me on astronomy. Everyone there, the group, the people who belonged to that community, were so welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And it was they invited me. Michael Forrester was doing the radio show at the time, and he, gosh, I'd only been with him for a couple of months as a member, and asked if I'd like to do some radio, and that was it. I mean, I just was full time from then on. And the neat thing about that, which is something I want to talk about tonight, is that the really cool thing about getting involved in astronomy outreach is it leads you to learn. As you're doing it naturally, when you want to share with other people, you want to know more. And especially when I did the radio shows there and we were talking about all these beautiful deep sky objects, I wanted exciting things to tell people who were listening and who were looking at them. I wanted them to be as excited as I was. And so I did a lot of research about everything and really quickly learned a lot about deep space and how exciting and tumultuous it really is. And so that's really where a lot of my learning came from. It was just my desire to learn more and get involved. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you know, teachers would totally agree with you there. I think a lot of what teachers like about teaching is that they also learn, and so it kind of feeds on itself sometimes. So, you know, sharing something that you love with somebody else is a great way to keep learning about it yourself. And it
Absolutely.
really it keeps just building on itself. And so you learn some more, and then you've got to share some more, and then by sharing it more, you know, you keep learning. So it's
you do. You're always learning. I homeschool my children,
yeah.
And that's kind of fun because, you know, I have to find fun and creative ways to make them be interested, and find neat ways to approach subjects, you know, non-traditional ways, and so I'm learning as I'm looking for stuff for them. I'm learning new things all the time.
Right. Okay,
So
great.
you
Go
said
ahead,
you wanted to bring some ideas for people who are interested in doing astronomy outreach, something that's they can do, you know, start right in their community.
That's right. One of the things I get a lot of emails, and I have since the days of SLU, and I continue to get them, and which I really appreciate hearing from people. And you know, I get a lot of emails that, you know, about people's enthusiasm, how much they're learning, and how excited they are. But I also get a lot of emails from people who are interested in getting involved and sharing with others, but they may be intimidated because they don't have a title or a degree. They're not affiliated with a particular group. And one of the ones that most kind of makes me sad is that sometimes I'll get an email from someone who says, you know, I was looking at your blog and I decided to do one because I want to share the sky with people, but nobody reads my blog, so I'm not going to do it. And I got one of those, it was a coincidence about 2 days before Georgia invited me to join you guys here tonight. And so the timing was perfect because I was really saddened by this young woman who is very concerned about light pollution, and she has a little science blog, and she had written to ask permission to use some of my night sky images on her series about light pollution. She continued to communicate with me as she developed this story, and I gave her links telling her, you know, why light pollution is bad. It's just not about seeing the stars. There's a lot of health concerns associated with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, about 2 days before Georgia invited me, she sent me an email and said, I decided I'm not going to do the story. Nobody reads my blog. And this really made me sad because here's a person who wants to reach out and they feel like no one will get their message. And this is where we all come in. Everyone who's watching right now, everyone out there who's enthusiastic about astronomy, you don't need a title, you don't need a degree, you don't need a big audience. If you tell one person, that's so important that you made a difference. You have made a difference because that one person will share with someone else. And it's an exponential thing. So there are a lot of ways that if you're not someone who's you know, very gregarious, maybe you're a quiet person and you don't have a lot of time, there are so many little things that you can do to make a difference. Now, I've had to be a little less involved with my astronomy outreach, with some of the larger things that I was doing, but I still have this desire to share the night sky with people, to share the science with people. This science is so much an important part of everything about our lives, which is kind of one of my attractions to space science anyway. It's about us. It's all about us. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I started doing is, and you can do this, and again, you don't have to have a degree or anything, but you know what you've learned. There's a little local newspaper here. It's a little rag, really. It's not online. It's just a very local thing, and I don't know how many readers she has, but I know that all her copies are always gone, and it's a free newspaper too, which is probably why all the copies are always gone. But anyway, I asked her, would she be interested in a little weekly, just a couple of paragraphs about the night sky? And she said she'd love it. So anyway, every week I write. It's just a couple of paragraphs, and I stay very basic. I always have a very basic thing. What is the moon going to do? What's the main sky event? That you don't have to have any interest in space science at all. But everyone likes the moon, and everyone likes to look up once in a while. And what this does is it piques people's curiosity, because when people are reading this paper, they may have and this is something I want to say too, is I want to reach the people who think they have no interest in the sky. Mm-hmm. That's who I want to get to.
Yeah.
And so with this little paper, it's perfect, because most of the people reading it, I would say, probably do not have any interest, or thought they didn't have an interest in the night sky. But they're going to read this paper, and of course, you know how it is when you read. You just read everything. Right. So they're going to run across that and read, and they're going to start looking up. And it turns out that that's working. You know, I'm starting to get questions from people. I can tell when I read their emails that, you know, a lot of them don't know that the sun is a star. They had no idea. So this is one of the things that you can do. Another really simple thing you can do is look at the weekly sky event, something that's very easy for people to look at. They don't have to know anything about the stars. They don't need binoculars. You know, again, a moon event is a good one. Just handwrite it on a little piece of paper and post it on the employee billboard at work. You know, most workplaces have an employee break room. Stick it up there. Somebody will look at it, and somebody will go outside and look up. And they'll even start to come and ask you questions.
Yeah,
and
you'll become like the resident expert. You'll become your resident space expert.
Yeah, and then they start asking you questions that you don't know the answer to. No, and that's where you get to learn some more, so you can come back.
I was going to say, that's okay. That's what
fine.
Everybody's afraid of, but don't be afraid of that, because you'll learn some more. It's an opportunity.
That is like the simplest of things you can do. Hand scribble it on a piece of paper, piece of notebook paper. You don't even need a computer for that. You don't need a lot of things to do outreach. And again, stick it on the billboard. Another thing that you can do is our local planetarium is. I went there year before last. When they first started doing the International Observe the Moon Night, the first year that they did that, and I know I guess they've only been doing it 2 or 3 years now, right?
I think so.
That probably started with the International Year of Astronomy.
Did it in 2009?
Yes, in 2009.
Yeah, I think so. But the first year that they did it, I went to my local planetarium, and just went in there and asked them if they knew about that, and they had no idea. And I said, would you mind if I helped you do an event? And they were very excited about it. And the first year, we had a couple dozen people, at the most. But now the neat thing is they contact me each year and say, hey, we're going to do International Observe the Moon Night. You want to come get involved and help us? So that's another thing you can do. Just go to your local planetarium, and when you know that there's a special event, ask them if they're going to do anything, or if you can help them host it, to get involved. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of some of the things that I do. I do some silly kind of things. They're not silly because they really help. But when I'm standing in line at the grocery store, you chat with people when you're standing in line. I will turn around and say, "Hey, did you know that the Jupiter's going to be right beside the moon tonight? This is a good chance to see Jupiter if you don't know where it is in the sky." And I do this with complete strangers.
Oh my gosh!
So what kind of responses do you get?
Most are very positive.
Yeah.
In fact, I can think of only one or two people who were not positive. And I know not all of them.
They were just having a bad day.
They were having a bad day.
What are you going to do?
We're at the grocery store. Nobody wants to be there.
I know that probably the International Space Station is another really good one to do.
Oh, yeah.
That is, in fact, when we first moved to this neighborhood, that was something I shared with a family around the corner. And now they're such huge fans, and they're always. I hear them out there. They run out there now when I'm out there, and they tell other people and get people involved. So there's all these little bitty things that you can do without having to be affiliated with a bigger group. And these little things are important because these are what get people coming to the larger things, who get people to tune into things like CosmoQuest or Phil Plate's Bad Astronomer, because you get curious and then you start looking yourself to learn more. Yeah. In fact, I want to tell you about this really cool study. Sure. And this was published in 2012, and the Astronomy Society, ASP, of the Astronomy Society of the Pacific, was actually referenced several times in this for their outstanding work in amateur astronomy outreach. Now, this paper was it was in the Astronomy Education Review.
Yeah, okay. I can find that.
Fantastic papers there. This is factors contributing to amateur astronomers' involvement in education and public outreach. The authors were Victor Yoko and Eric Jones of the Institute for Learning Innovation and Martin Storchstake of the National Academy of Sciences. In the introduction of the paper, this is a really exciting thing that they say. Amateur astronomers, excuse me, those who participate in astronomy as a hobby, provide a vital link between the science of astronomy and the general public by sparking awareness and appreciation of the night sky. And that's where it really starts. That's where, and one of the things I think this eventually leads to is our support for NASA too. And I forgot to mention that earlier. I think that's one of the most important things, I think, is when we're getting people involved and getting them to care and have an interest in space science.
That's right.
And support for our space program. Anyway, it goes on to say, education and public outreach by amateur astronomers in both formal and informal settings has been acknowledged as a critical focus for increasing the public's astronomical interest and scientific literacy. Without amateur astronomers committing their time to education and public outreach efforts, much of the education and public outreach currently taking place would not exist. He goes on to note that some 10,000 amateur astronomers at any given time are engaged in some sort of public outreach and getting people involved and getting people to look up. I think that's amazing. I was really impressed with the numbers. How many people are really involved? I think that there's the misconception that when we see people doing astronomy outreach, when we see, and because we know that a lot of the things that we read and stuff, we are learning from people who are formally involved in astronomy.
Professional astronomers, right?
That's right, professional astronomers. So it's exciting to know that how important it is for the amateur astronomer, just people like me, to get people interested, and that you do have the power, that you can do it, and you can, and you know what's really the most important thing about it is that you're raising people's awareness or giving them a better understanding of the world around them. You know, there's so many misunderstandings, and you know how the conspiracy theories are, and people just don't really understand the world around them, and I think it's important for them to have just a little bit more understanding of it.
Oh, definitely, sure.
Could you say tell me the title of that paper again? I'm trying to find the link to include that.
It's factors contributing to amateur astronomers' involvement in education and public outreach.
And public outreach. Thanks. I will include that once I find. Oh, I found it. There we go. So I will include that link in the event comments and then also in the show notes on the YouTube page. So if you guys want to read that, I'm pretty sure AER is an open access journal.
Yes,
so
totally online.
It is.
Anybody can get it. It's all online.
Open science.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Yeah. On your note on amateur astronomers, the Charlottesville. When I was living in Charlottesville, at the University of Virginia, professional astronomers did outreach, but the cast, the Charlottesville Astronomical Society, the amateur astronomers were amazing at doing outreach, at bringing their telescopes to schools, to events, and doing that. Oh my gosh, I did a couple of events with Girl Scout troops and camping, and it was always those cast guys that were there with their equipment, ready to share the sky. And you don't have to have a big expensive telescope to do that either. I mean, if you have a light bucket, you have a Dobsonian, you can kind of bring it out on the sidewalk and do some sidewalk astronomy.
Yeah, another thing that gets people interested and gets them asking you questions is just a pair of binoculars or a camera. And I'm all around town with my camera in the morning and in the evening, early evening. And I frequently have people come up and say, "What you looking at? What you taking pictures of?" There you go, And
They're curious.
That's right, they are, and you let them look too. There's been a couple of times I've taken my telescope and went and set it up at an empty lot. And, I'm not looking at anything in particular, but I make sure I do it in a place, it's kind of hard to find a good dark place that a lot of people are going to be coming by.
Right.
Typically there's too many lights. But you can look at the moon,
Yep.
No, and again, I do it just so people will stop and go, "What are you looking at?" And then you let them look through your telescope, And
amateur astronomers are such a they're just a force. They're so amazing. And there are people like you, Tavi, that you can just tell as you talk about the subject that you love it. You're just kind of glowing and full of energy as you talk about astronomy. And most amateur astronomers, and I'm thinking more of club members too, but really, anybody who gets out there and looks, they're an amateur astronomer. But I'm wondering if you work with clubs at all, or do you usually find yourself kind of out there, on your own, maybe with friends or something, or if there's a more formal amateur astronomy club near you?
There's not. In fact, this is something I talk with the director of our local planetarium about sometimes, is that there is evidently an astronomy club near here, but for some reason they have trouble getting things together. I don't know what the deal is with them, but several times, there's actually 2 different ones around here. Several times we've invited them to events and they said they would come and they don't show up. So, I don't know what the deal is. So I'm always pretty much alone when I'm doing this. When I'm going, and that's okay. And see, that's my point. There are plenty of astronomy clubs, and these, in fact, one of the things that's noted in that paper that I referenced is that how much astronomy clubs contribute to encouraging people to do outreach. And it found that most of the people who did outreach were actually involved with an astronomy club in some way or another. And so the people I want to talk to or reach tonight is the people who may not have an affiliation with an astronomy club, who are like me in a little bitty town and alone. They don't know too many people who are really into astronomy like they are. That's okay. You can still, you don't have to turn everyone into an astronomer, but you can raise awareness with a lot of little things. There's little things that you can do. And like Nicole said, or maybe it was you, Georgia, that pretty soon they start coming and asking you questions. And this gives you an opportunity to teach them a little bit more.
Yeah.
And you know that the interest is piqued, and that they themselves will start looking for more information, and their awareness will have been raised.
Right. So it is. It's important not to just think that you can't do anything because you're just one person.
Yeah.
That's right. The girl who most recently wrote me and said that, I'm not going to do my light pollution series because nobody reads my blog. you don't have to have a huge audience, you know, or a lot of readers. That, I mean, certainly we all want to. We want to reach as many people, and we want to know that our message is being heard. But, you know, the cool thing about the internet is that everything stays there pretty much. So maybe a lot of people aren't reading something right now today, but through time they will run across it. And of course, there's things you can do to use social networking to get more people over to your website to get them to read. But in the meantime, you know what? If 1 or 2 people read it, that's okay. If it's only 1 or 2 people, because those 1 or 2 people will discuss it with someone else, and it will grow, and that's the important thing.
So we have a question from Chris Rand asking, how can someone who's generally pretty busy help get the word out? Is there a commercial stick, something we can say or do? I guess I'm thinking he's asking something along the lines of an elevator pitch. Like maybe what's your astronomy elevator pitch?
Well, again, typically I'm pretty much always aware of what's happening in the night sky. And so, you know, that's the conversation starter. You know, the elevator pitch is you say it to, you can say it to a complete stranger. Hey, did you know? Because your excitement will show. You know, or have you ever seen Jupiter before? A lot of people love the idea of Jupiter, so it's a great one to use. Yeah. That, you know, the moon's going to be right beside Jupiter tonight, and so when you see it, you know, you'll recognize it, and now you'll always know when Jupiter, you know, once you find Jupiter, always know Jupiter.
Sky.
You know, just a little thing, being aware of what's in the night sky.
Tavi, where do you get your information about what's up in the night sky? So if you want to, you know, get that so that you can talk to somebody the next time you run into them, is there a source, a favorite source you have? Just a sky calendar, a magazine, or internet? Somewhere?
Yeah, I use a variety of sources for my weekly article. Number one I use is my Stellarium program.
Yeah.
Stellarium is free to download. Yeah. It's so user friendly. It's a great program, and anyone can download it. Stellarium, Stellarium.
Yeah, we use that every week for the virtual star party as well.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah,
okay.
So usually Scott Lewis has Stellarium open on one of his screens.
And they have a mobile app that you can use. My favorite moon phase is really good. People love the crescent moon, and that's another thing to share with people, especially if it's going to be beside a planet. But Universe Today has a fantastic moon phase app.
We know.
I love to push the forward button so you can watch the phases go. But that's a really good one.
We love you, Fraser. Get the app working.
So those two I use, and then I always I like to. And then sometimes I'll look at Sky and Telescope.
Okay, yeah.
There's the moon out.
Oh, there it is.
All right, yeah, I gotta show it.
Do it so push the button so it phases through the that way you can see the libation of the moon, so it keeps.
Oh,
you know,
I don't know how to do that.
Over in the bottom right, there should be a little arrow.
I'm not getting that.
The thing I can't get working is the map, the craters map.
Oh, okay.
Will it put the names of the craters on?
Yeah, there's supposed to be a moon app.
Start rotating. There it is.
Is it going?
Yeah.
There it goes.
So
I play with that all the time.
The
That's my entertainment, watching the moon go around.
There it goes.
And you can totally show somebody this in the grocery store line, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do it. You know what? Because, you know what, if somebody doesn't like it, that's okay. I don't mind. I'll never see them again. So.
Depends how small the town is.
I know to say, Tavi, you're in a small town, don't you see?
That's true. Yeah, they probably go, that's that girl. Stay away from her. But I do also like to reference Sky and Telescope and 1 Minute Astronomer. I really love that website.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to get a look ahead. One of the fun things I do with my article, even though I have basic stuff in it, I always have one paragraph with some more complicated space science in it. Like this week I talked about supernovas. Now, most of the people I'm talking to, they'll never get to see a supernova. They'll never, they won't get a telescope and go out and look for it and all that. That's more complicated, and they don't have to. But if they have a little bit of an understanding about supernovas and the science of it, so I always like to include a little extra science in there.
Sure, and it's probably a term they've heard, maybe even if it's in a movie or
That's right.
a program or something, so you can still make that connection there, which I think is what you're doing such a great job at, Tavi, is you're making a connection between, people that don't really aren't aware, like you say, of astronomy at all and how it's all around them, and then the expert, like the professional astronomer. So for some people, that's a wide chasm, and you're kind of in between, sort of, I don't know, translating sometimes in a way, but at least making a connection between those two worlds, which is really cool. And like you say, it's just one person that you need to do that.
That's right.
Store.
That's right. Yeah. So, the most important thing I want to say, the message I have is don't be discouraged. If you're not, you don't need to have a huge audience or anything, and don't be discouraged if you are doing a blog or something like that and you feel like you don't have much of an audience. You know what? It's okay. You don't have to have a big audience. The people who do look at your blog or who read what you have to say, they will tell other people. And also, with time, things like blogs, they do grow. They do grow in audience. So I think that's important.
There's a concept called the long tail. I mean, you've got, like Phil, right? Phil Plait, at the top. And then, it kind of slides down to the rest of us. And then there's this long tail of astronomy bloggers that don't necessarily each have a big audience. But you can use that and become an expert at some particular aspect of it. You can, really focus in on the thing you love. And so even if you don't have a big audience, you have an audience that's really interested in that thing that you do.
That's right. And the other thing is that you also, what you're doing is providing a link, and that's something that paper talked about, a link between them and some of the more formal, more professional people like Phil Plait. That's a bad astronomer. I try to recommend people checking out his page, so that you can, like you said, you may not know a whole lot, but you can direct people to people who do know a lot. Yeah.
Right.
And
you
that's
know who those resources are. Yeah.
Being that bridge. That's right. Which is another thing I also put at the end, usually, of my article, is I try to, make note of some the Ian O'Neill, his article, and Phil Plait, Universe Today. That's one of my favorites. I love Nancy.
Lovely.
Yeah, and also there's a space carnival, the Carnival of Space, where a bunch of the astronomy bloggers and space science bloggers all, submit their stories for the week, and anyone who does an astronomy blog can participate in this. So look up Carnival of Space. I know Universe Today used to run it. Now it's being run by somebody else. I unfortunately haven't submitted in a long time, but that's a way that you can get your link, and this carnival, it travels to a different blog every week, and so you get to, get all the readers of these blogs together and cross-promote your stuff, and I think that's really useful if you're blogging on astronomy.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. Yeah, so some of the people who feel like they don't have many readers, this is something that might help them get some exposure.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it helps you get exposure, helps you get see what else is going on in the blogosphere, and you get to know the other writers a little better. Through that circle.
I've seen carnivals. I've seen it a lot, and of course, visited the sites that were hosting it.
Yeah.
But I'm still having a hard time grasping it exactly.
Okay. Yeah, it's different. So there's the way it's run now is there's a Google spreadsheet, and you sign up for what date you want to, what week you want to do the carnival. And then there's another Google spreadsheet where everyone just submits their links, and you write a blog post using all those links on your week, basically. So, and then everyone's expected to share that link for that carnival. So here's this week's carnival. So they all direct back.
And they list all the articles.
Right.
Okay, I get it. Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
I'm sorry, I've totally fallen behind on that, but yeah, I recommend it. I've fallen behind on writing for it, but yeah.
And things grow. You know what? Any little thing you do, it'll grow. Kind of like what I was talking about when I went to the planetarium and got them to do that first International Observe the Moon night, and now they do it. And our audience, that the people who come out on International Observe the Moon night each year now, that it's getting bigger and bigger and more people are coming.
Yeah.
And CosmoQuest is a good example. How CosmoQuest started, and now you guys, you're doing more and more and more. How many shows a week do you do now?
5. Plus we're helping My Moon, so they're kind of like 5.5. Yeah. So it's growing, and our user base has been growing with time as well. We started out as like, hey, we have this thing, and it's been growing over time and growing the community. I wanted to point out a comment from Lourdes. It's been commenting on some really great stuff on the event page, but also mentioning, I talked about that long tail. The length of that tail is important because, when you're integrating under the curve, that still counts. Right? All those audience members count, even though you don't have a lot. There's a lot of people that have a little bit. Yeah, sorry, math joke. And you're actually reaching pretty far.
That's right. That's right.
That community.
Imagine, like I remember when we first started astronomy.fm.
Mm-hmm.
Some nights we might have 12 listeners. Mm-hmm. When we started. And in some way, some little part of you says, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. Am I really, But we kept on doing it, and now the audience is, I think it's over 20,000 listeners.
Wow.
I can't remember how many countries, but it's countries you just wouldn't even, you would go, oh my God, I didn't know they even had computers there. So it grows, it grows with time. And so, again, don't give up because you only have a few people. Right. It'll grow, and that, just give it time.
Yeah.
And again, like you were saying at CosmoQuest, I guess originally when you first started doing the Hangouts, you probably only had a few people.
Right. Well, yes. We also, there was like no one to Google Plus at the time, It's like us and 3 guys. But yeah, and now it's a much bigger thing, the virtual star party.
I can't tell you how many radio shows I've done that, I used to do the Deep Sky Divas with Marlene Bryan.
Yes, I would love to hear about Deep Sky Divas.
Tell us about the new, both of them.
Okay, well, Deep Sky Divas, and we've been on hiatus for a little while. We did that show for several years, and we just needed to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
That was fun. We had a lot of fun. Just, that was encompassed everything. We just talked about astronomy and space science, and we did a lot of general news, and then had something we focused on each week. Well, now we have another show in development. A lot of people still write us today asking us to bring Deep Sky Divas back. But what we decided to do is we're going to kind of roll it into a new show, and it's called Space Has Curves. And this show will focus on women in astronomy and space science throughout human history. Our first show is going to be one of the oldest known women in astronomy. And we're going to go back and forth between ancient history and today. And we want to try to touch on women that you probably haven't heard of, whose names you haven't heard, who have contributed much to space science and astronomy. And I cannot wait. I wish I had the logo here. We've got the logo finished up, and it's just gorgeous. It's really beautiful. I would love to share that today.
Can I submit some of my favorite female radio astronomers for
I wish you would. I do. I want you to. There was a woman this woman, I'm so excited, and I want her to be one of our first shows. I can't remember her name, but just the other day I read that her discovery of what may be causing some satellites to fail. Did you see that?
I saw that. I saw your post.
No, I saw the title.
I can't remember her name now either. But yes, about the space dust causing
Yes, and the plasma.
satellite failure.
This is really fascinating. Yeah, and so here's a woman.
Remember the name.
It'd be wonderful to do a story on her, and the work that she's done is really, really cool. So watch for that show. I think it's still going to be at least another couple of months.
BFM?
But
Okay.
yeah, we'll do it on astronomy.fm.
And who's your co-host?
Yeah.
Her name is Marlon? Or
Marlene
Yeah.
Bryan, and Leanne Manzer. I think Manzer's her last name. Forgive me, Leanne, if I mispronounced it. Now, Leanne is with York Observatory, which, by the way, does a live telescope viewing on Monday nights, weather permitting, from Canada. And they have a fantastic show. That's on astronomy.fm. She's with them, but we asked her to join us at Space Has Furs. So.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, we'll watch for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where can we find you and your blog and all your stuff? Do you have a website that we could share out?
Yeah, and I haven't been doing anything on it lately, again, because I've just been real busy, and so I've kind of toned down my astronomy outreach. But I have, with Rob Cowan, we have askyfullofstars.com.
Okay.
I think that he's doing some work on that the past couple of weeks, so he may have it turned off right now. We're making some changes there, fixing a few things, but it's askyfullofstars.com. And we do a lot of astronomy productions there. We do a lot of podcasts. We've done a few for 365 Days of Astronomy. And
which this is now going into, this show, by the way. We've lowered 365. Yeah, the Hangouts.
Yeah.
As well.
Cool.
You're doing a show right now for that.
Continues.
Hey, you know what? There's a perfect example for somebody to, if you want to get involved in astronomy outreach, do a podcast.
Oh, yeah.
For 365 Days of Astronomy. I think that's one of the greatest things ever to come along. Because you can just talk about your favorite subject. You don't have to have, you can do it all alone at your desk, and just do a little recording. And that's a fun way to get the message out to people. If you know, and if you're somebody who thinks you do want to get involved in the internet radio and live streaming and stuff, there's a good way to get your feet wet right there.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
And then you're on Twitter also, Tavi. I know I see you quite a bit on Twitter, right?
Yeah, and I haven't been on there much. I'm telling you, I just have really been out of the public eye lately. But I'm on Twitter, and it's what is my Twitter handle?
It's just your name. Yeah, I just shared that.
Tavi Greiner or Tavi Ann?
Tavi Greiner. I think Tavi Ann is your the name associated with it. Tavi Greiner is your Twitter handle.
Okay.
So I've
and
added that link.
I'm also on Facebook. And then is there a way I can type? Let me see. I'm going to try something real quick, okay?
If you type in the chat, I can copy it out for
That's
you.
what I'll do. I'll put it in our private chat.
So look for the purple flower avatar on Twitter with the NASA logo in the middle of it.
Yeah, there you go.
This is the first time I'm talking to you, and you're not a purple flower.
I know.
And I see you've also got the Space Tweep mascot on your avatar as well.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. And how about that? You know about Jen and Andy and the new edition?
No.
No, I don't either. I was following that a little bit for a while, and then I've gotten busy too. So explain that and tell us, Space Tweet.
They just had a pre-launch party last week. There's going to be a little Jen and Andy soon.
Oh, okay. So the Space Tweeps are having mini tweeps. That's fantastic. Yeah, the Space Tweep Society.
Baby tweep.
I'm not gonna describe this well. It's a group of people who I first heard of it through when I was going to see shuttle launches. It was people that were getting together to watch launches and share their love of space exploration.
Yeah, it was some of the first tweet ups.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? At least when I first started hearing about it, they were involved in getting some of that going too. So, and I think Tavi, you've been to some of the tweet ups that NASA's had?
I went to the second tweet up that they had, which it was the first one on this coast. It was at NASA headquarters in Washington.
Cool.
Rob Count and I went, and on Gene Mikulka. Do you know Gene Mikulka?
Yeah.
He does.
I don't think I know.
With Sawyer, they started the. I got a blank. What's that radio show that they do? Talking Space.
Yeah.
But he was there. That's when first time I met Gene.
Oh.
So yeah, I went to that now, and I haven't been to any other tweet ups. But when they launched the Grail spacecraft, the two Grail orbiters,
oh, cool!
NASA invited me, which was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Invited me, sent me a personal invite to come down there, and as a VIP for myself and my family. And so they were doing the tweet up. Of course, they had a tweet up there,
right?
And so I got to see some of the people that were in the tweet up, particularly Suzanne Kennison and Camilla. Camilla came and paid a special
I love Camilla.
Yeah.
I was at the SDO launch, so me and Camilla go way back.
Yeah.
I'm a Camilla hipster.
My poor daughter, she loves Camilla. She just adores Camilla. She's 10 years old, and she, when she finally got to meet Camilla at the launch, she got to sit. She put Camilla on the picnic table to sit beside her, and I feel so sorry for her. She dropped Camilla on her face.
Oh no!
She was so mortified. Poor little thing.
Oh, that's great. Oh, Camilla's okay.
She was all right.
She was just fine.
Right. She did good.
Camilla went to space. I'm pretty sure falling off a picnic table is not gonna. This is
not gonna hurt her.
I have a micro Camilla.
Oh.
This came in my little packet at the SDO launch. I just found it recently.
The micro.
The micro Camilla. Yes. I'm still unpacking from my move 9 months ago, and I found my micro Camilla.
Oh,
amazing. You found that. That is so small.
Oh my gosh.
I put a link. Here's something else that will. Here's something else that will help. That you can do as an individual. I like to take photos of the night sky. I'm, no great photographer or anything, but the night sky itself is pretty. So pretty much whatever you do is going to be something that people are going to look at and have an interest in. And so I try to always share my images, and I get a lot of people. That's a hook, and that's a great hook. I have a lot of people, and I can think of a few right now that never had any interest in the sky, and now they are very involved in astronomy, and they are taking their own pictures, just because of that first original thing with me sharing one of my images. So that's a great thing. Don't ever be afraid to share. You don't need to be shy or modest. Anything that you do is good. It's the point of sharing, and that's the thing. So that's a link for some of my photos.
Yeah, I put that in the event page. I'll add that to the YouTube description as well. I'm looking at your sun pictures. They are so gorgeous. I guess you're using a filter on your camera?
Yeah, those ones with are they sunspots?
Yeah, the sunspot pictures.
Yeah, let me tell you what filter I use. I use one of my. You can see my dogs behind me. So I have a couple of solar filters for that. Okay. And I don't have one for my camera. I want to get one for my camera and one for my big binoculars. I do have a little pair of solar binoculars. But anyway, I make my son go outside and hold in front of my camera lens, hold my solar filter there because it's so big, it's huge. Yeah. And he holds it in place for me. Oh my goodness. While I get those pictures.
Don't look. Lourdes also commented another way of doing outreach is making YouTube videos. She did one about EarthCam and in English and in Spanish. So yeah, YouTube videos. You've got where did my phone go? I don't know, but you've got a little video camera with you pretty much all the time. Most cameras you can take small video with, or you can use a webcam. That's another great way of sharing your passion.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. Wow, gosh, I hadn't even thought about that. I might do a couple of things. I love doing stuff like that. Something I really miss a lot is with SLU doing the nightly thing with we'd stop and take a picture of the Heart Nebula, That is like so much fun to talk about the Heart Nebula and the science of it, you know. I really miss doing that. I miss talking to people about the science of deep space.
Yeah. Have you ever gone into schools, Tavi, to share and with the kids?
No, I'm trying to think if I have. Not in as far as astronomy goes, no.
Okay.
And I probably should. But no, I've been kind of busy, and I really haven't even thought about that. Right, and my children, and one reason I don't think about it is because my children are homeschooled.
Right.
And so a lot of times I kind of forget about public school, and I should not. I really should not.
But that's if you're comfortable with kids, and especially if you're, especially if it's a certain age that you're comfortable with, you can go to a school and you can volunteer, your services just as, someone who'd like to come and talk about astronomy, the solar system, could be telescopes, and again, this could be through an astronomy club. That happens a lot, but it wouldn't have to be, like you say, if you just make it known in the community that, this is a hobby and you'd like to come share it with the kids sometimes. That's just another idea, another way, because a lot of times the teachers, especially at the elementary level, they're looking for people to come in and talk to their students who have some knowledge, and actually you're better suited to do it than having like a university professor. Sorry, Nicole.
Oh, yeah. No, I totally
do it because you're again, it's making that connection. You're giving them just what they need, an awareness of the sky, all the cool things that you can see out there with just binoculars or just your own eyes, the ISS, all that wow stuff, Saturn. There's
so many fun little things that you can do.
It doesn't have to be
the size of the solar system, and get the toilet paper roll out and do all that.
Oh yeah, and they have so much fun with that. They would. So again, if you're comfortable with kids, you like kids, and you want to go that route, most teachers are really grateful to have somebody come in and share their class with them for a few.
And I do know some people who do that with their through their children's school, and they're not professional astronomers, and a couple of them are not even with an astronomy club.
Yeah.
So that's another great idea.
Just your hobby, just something you enjoy and you want to share. Yeah.
That's right. Absolutely. That's a wonderful idea.
Wow.
And that's the main thing. I hope that the people who are tuned in tonight, I hope that you'll start to share the night sky, with people around you, with your neighbors, and your friends and family. Encourage them to go outside and look up.
We got a question from Todd Howard asking if we'll do a follow-up on this chat in a few months' time, and I think that might be a good idea. All of you watching, you have now been tasked. Go ahead and give some of these things a try, and I think maybe we could get some kind of discussion on how they've worked, and we can come back with some feedback.
That would be a lot of fun.
It would be fun. Little experiment.
Yes. Any new things that you may have come up with, the audience, something what you have done. I think that's great. Let's put that challenge to everyone.
Yeah.
All right.
Fantastic. Cool. That's a deal.
Yeah, so stick around. Let us know what you've been working on. You can get to us by the CosmoQuest Google Plus page. That's one good place we could start collecting ideas. Or educate@cosmoquest.org.
Yeah,
that's
just
how
say
you can
they can email anything in. That's maybe one of the easiest.
Or just keep using the Learning Space hashtag, since we only use it for the show on Wednesdays anyway. That's if you're on Twitter, you want to tweet about this stuff. That would be cool. All right.
That would be awesome.
I wanted one last homework. Yes, Citizen Gold homework. You found your Learning Space homework. Go pick one of these ideas and give it a try. In person, online, writing. I know despite the appearance I put on, I'm an introvert, and the idea of talking to a stranger in the grocery store just terrifies me. So you don't all have to do that.
Do you know what? I am too. Typically, I'm very, very quiet. My whole life, everyone always said you're too quiet. But astronomy has changed that. Now I can't shut up.
I don't know. It's just, oh, that's scary. Maybe I do this online, and I don't want to talk to people when I'm not on. Something like that. Patrick Manley adds a comment that
Hey,
since we're talking
Patrick.
about kids, we are all kids way deep down inside, and I think, like you said, astronomy brings that out in people.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Patrick is someone who's really involved in outreach.
Yes.
With his club, so he's a good example of someone to look to. So he does a lot.
Yeah.
And one other thing I wanted to slightly embarrass Chris Rand, who asked a question earlier, because he came up with a very interesting and unique way of doing astronomy outreach. He's putting the CosmoQuest logo on his triathlon jersey. So that is awesome, and we love you, and we love you, Nasty Calendar, for that. So that's just another, like, just out of the blue, great idea of how to,
Wow, that's great.
I got pulled for a license check a couple of weeks ago, and the very young state trooper walked to the back of my car. I guess they check you, walk back there and look, and he came back with the most puzzled look on his face, and he said, and he was dead serious, he goes, I have a NASA logo back there. He said, are you an astronaut? And I laughed, and I said, no. And he said, but you have a NASA logo. Like, if you have a NASA logo, you are an astronaut. And I just laughed. I didn't even respond to it.
That's funny. That's funny.
But he was very serious. He was very serious.
Did you get out of the ticket?
What?
Oh, wait,
see, it shows you how little people know about NASA and what NASA does. And so it was funny.
Yeah, it really, sometimes we're all talking with each other in our groups that are all astronomy enthusiasts and space lovers, and you really do forget that you get outside of our groups, and people don't know because they're busy, and they're just not thinking about it. They're not aware of what's going on in the sky.
I didn't know before I got involved.
When you point that out to them, it's just amazing. I shared, Nicole had the glasses at the beginning of the program, and I had a class at the university the night of the Venus transit, but I just thought, and I almost skipped, but I was good, and I didn't skip. But I took a bunch of those glasses with me, and at break, I just, I gave them out to my fellow students, and they all went out, and they were just amazed, and they had no idea. And then some of them wanted to take glasses home to their kids, and I said, well, the transit's, it's, going to be over by the time, because it was a long class, and then the sun was setting, of course, anyway. So, but it didn't matter, they wanted to look at just the sun, because even, without the planet up there, the sun with the glasses is really cool.
Yeah.
It sure is. I give those glasses out.
You can, not be afraid to look. Just looking at the sun is amazing. So it's just finding those opportunities and just, going for it, I guess.
You know what? And so you make a good point. Your class is a good one. A lot of people are going to school. And so the class, find out if there's going to be an ISS pass during your class. Get everyone outside. That's something else I've done at work when I work the midnight shift. Hey, in the morning time when it's a morning pass, come on, guys, let's go outside and look at the space station.
I've dragged people out of bars.
Break time.
Yes, there you go.
Yes, toast to the astronauts.
Woo. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Oh my God, we could have a whole show on alcohol and astronomy outreach, but
after hours.
Yes.
After hours.
But I would like to wrap up and thank you so much for coming in and talking about all of this stuff. And I'm challenging all of our viewers to go ahead and give one or more of these a try. Do you have any last thoughts or summation or,
Me? No,
Yes.
This has been a lot of fun, and I think the great summation, our last thoughts is we're challenging you to get out and do some little thing, and if you come up with a new idea, some little thing, share it. I'm certainly interested in
Yeah, I
trying
love the idea of collecting all these little, sort of odd ideas, little things you can do to
There
share
will be a blog post. That's what I'm
We'll
going to
make
do.
a, yeah,
They're
we'll
right
make
in my
a big
to-do list right now on the
There you go.
whiteboard.
it.
And then Tavi, we'll have to have you come back and maybe especially after you launch Space Has Curves, and
Yeah.
or after whenever we want to end this challenge. I don't know how long you want to give people.
I don't know.
And follow up. Definitely.
Well, let's give them a couple of months because a lot of people are still in the really cold weather.
Yeah.
And the springtime is
Weather
one of the
gets
best
better.
times to share. People are more willing to go outside and have a look at what the thing you're so excited about. So
Great. Okay. All right. But yeah, thank you, Tavi. This was awesome. This was
thank
so
you for
much
having
fun.
me.
Yeah.
A lot of fun.
Excellent.
And everyone who tuned in tonight, thank you.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone, for watching, for participating, commenting, sharing your ideas. Like I said, I'll put up a blog post on cosmoquest.org/blog. We can start collecting things there, start using comments there. And tomorrow, what's today? Wednesday. Tomorrow is the Planetary Society Hangout at noon Pacific, which is hosted by Emily Lakdawala. And then Friday at noon Pacific is the weekly Space Hangout with me and Fraser Kane and a whole slew of space journalists. We'll be talking about our favorite stories from the week. And special event I want to note, next week's, not this week's, but next week's, March, what is it, 8th something? Calendar I have. Yeah, it's March 8th, weekly Space Hangout. And March 10th, virtual star party. We will be streaming to you live from South by Southwest. So if you're in Austin, Texas for South by Southwest, there's a huge NASA tent and JWST model. Come say hi or join one of those hangouts if you can't be in Austin. We'll be streaming live from the event. So check it out.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
All right. Good night.
And that blew my mind. I mean, that was really an ethereal moment for me. And so then, when I moved down here, I didn't know anyone, didn't have much to do, so I thought I'd really get involved in astronomy. And I have to say it was SLU.com, the remote observatory, that really hooked me on astronomy. Everyone there, was the group, the people who belonged to that community, were so welcoming.
Mm-hmm.
And it was they invited me. Michael Forrester was doing the radio show at the time, and he, gosh, I'd only been with him for a couple of months as a member, and asked if I'd like to do some radio, and that was it. I mean, I just was full time from then on. And the neat thing about that, which is something I want to talk about tonight, is that the really cool thing about getting involved in astronomy outreach is it leads you to learn. As you're doing it naturally, when you want to share with other people, you want to know more. And especially when I did the radio shows there and we were talking about all these beautiful deep sky objects, I wanted exciting things to tell people who were listening and who were looking at them. I wanted them to be as excited as I was. And so I did a lot of research about everything and really quickly learned a lot about deep space and how exciting and tumultuous it really is. And so that's really where a lot of my learning came from. It was just my desire to learn more and get involved. So.
Yeah, I agree, and I think teachers would totally agree with you there. I think a lot of what teachers like about teaching is that they also learn, and so it kind of feeds on itself sometimes. So, sharing something that you love with somebody else is a great way to keep learning about it yourself. And it
Absolutely.
really it keeps just building on itself. And so you learn some more, and then you've got to share some more. And then by sharing it more, you keep learning. So it's...
You do. You're always learning. I homeschool my children.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Learning Space. This week, we are talking with Tavi Greiner. Did I pronounce your last name right?
Greiner.
Sorry, Tavi Greiner. I'd like make sure I got the first name and I skipped the last. We're talking with Tavi Greiner about some informal astronomy education. I am one of your hosts today, Nicole Gugliucci. I work with CosmoQuest. I am a postdoc, and I have with me Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
So Georgia Bracey also works for CosmoQuest. You're our formal education lead. and we're going to go ahead and get started. Unfortunately, I totally worked on getting a hands-on demo together today because I've been in meetings all day. I'm sure some of you know what that's like.
Yes.
But I do have some fancy Venus Transit 2012 vintage solar glasses. So I could
Nice.
just demonstrate that for you. I can't see a darn thing. So
That's sometimes nice.
yes.
I would kind of like
take
that.
a nap with these on.
Gives you a warm, cozy feeling.
Yeah, so these are from NASA, Sun Earth Day, nasa.gov. Just a reminder, if you're ever going to do solar observing, as I've blogged about this before, please use proper equipment and make sure you've got something that's, all properly certified. So that's my cop-out hands-on demo of the week, since I was in
Learning space tip of the week.
Yeah, learning space
Science tip of the week. There you go.
I'd like to remind you guys, if you want to comment or ask questions along the way, we are monitoring comments on YouTube, so if you're watching there, on the Google Plus event page, on anywhere else on Google Plus where this happens to be posted. I'm pretty sure we are tracking those. And if you are using Twitter, use the hashtag #LearningSpace, and that will reach us as well. So feel free to ask questions, and we will try and get to all of them during the broadcast. So Tavi, hi. Welcome to Learning Space.
Hi there.
Welcome you and your friend in the background.
Can you see him?
Yeah. The Zynga poster. I love it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with astronomy outreach, all the amazing, awesome stuff you've done.
I've done a lot of fun stuff. I started out with SLU.com, which is a remote observatory located in the Canary Islands, and they also have equipment in Australia now. And with that, we did nightly radio shows to accompany the real-time imaging. That was a lot of fun. As we observed each object, we would talk about it. Explain the science behind it, and we also had news programs and a lot of interaction with the people who were there. And I also was very involved for quite a while with astronomy.fm, which is the world's only 24-hour astronomy internet radio station. They have a lot of original programs that they play, and they also replay some of the CosmoQuest shows. I think the weekly space hangouts do those. A lot of the more popular shows that are on. And I also do a lot of outreach around here locally with the local planetarium. And we have astronomy productions, Rob Cowan and I, with skyfulofstars.com. We do a lot of interviews with people in the space science industry. So that's pretty much it.
Tavi, how did you get started? Because I think you're going to probably talk a little bit more about that later, but for your own personal story, did you have a science background? What got you interested, I guess, in astronomy, and then how did you decide to take it further and do outreach, share it with everybody else?
Yeah, you know what? How I first got started is just simply being curious about looking up and wondering what was up there. Mm-hmm. And my husband bought me a used telescope, and I got out there and just started messing around and accidentally found Saturn.
Wow!
Wasn't even looking for it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun because, I have to find fun and creative ways to make them be interested, and find neat ways to approach subjects, non-traditional ways. And so I'm learning as I'm looking for stuff for them. I'm learning new things all the time.
Right. Okay,
so
great.
You
Go
said
ahead.
you wanted to bring some ideas for people who are interested in doing astronomy outreach, something that they can do, start right in their community.
That's right. One of the things I get a lot of emails, and I have since the days of SLU, and I continue to get them, and which I really appreciate hearing from people. And I get a lot of emails that about people's enthusiasm, how much they're learning, and how excited they are. But I also get a lot of emails from people who are interested in getting involved and sharing with others but they may be intimidated because they don't have a title or a degree. They're not affiliated with a particular group. And one of the ones that most kind of makes me sad is that sometimes I'll get an email from someone who says, you know, I was looking at your blog and I decided to do one because I want to share the sky with people, but nobody reads my blog, so I'm not going to do it. And I got one of those, it was a coincidence about 2 days before Georgia invited me to join you guys here tonight. And so the timing was perfect because I was really saddened by this young woman who is very concerned about light pollution. And she has a little science blog. And she had written to ask permission to use some of my night sky images on her series about light pollution. She continued to communicate with me as she developed this story. And I gave her links telling her, you know, why light pollution is bad. It's just not about seeing the stars. There's a lot of health concerns associated with it.
Yeah.
So anyway, about 2 days before Georgia invited me, she sent me an email and said, I decided I'm not going to do the story. Nobody reads my blog. And this really made me sad because here's a person who wants to reach out and they feel like no one will get their message. And this is where we all come in. Everyone who's watching right now, everyone out there who's enthusiastic about astronomy, you don't need a title, you don't need a degree, you don't need a big audience. If you tell one person, that's so important that you made a difference. You have made a difference because that one person will share with someone else. And it's an exponential thing. So there are a lot of ways that if you're not someone who's you know, very gregarious, maybe you're a quiet person and you don't have a lot of time, there are so many little things that you can do to make a difference. Now, I've had to be a little less involved with my astronomy outreach with some of the larger things that I was doing, but I still have this desire to share the night sky with people, to share the science with people. This science is so much an important part of everything about our lives, which is kind of one of my attractions to space science anyway. It's about us. It's all about us. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I started doing is, and you can do this, and again, you don't have to have a degree or anything, but you know what you've learned. There's a little local newspaper here. It's a little rag, really. It's not online. It's just a very local thing, and I don't know how many readers she has, but I know that all her copies are always gone, and it's a free newspaper too, which is